Huw, has he stole all your thunder?
He's a good guy, I'll see what I can do. Three things from me. I think the government can be really smarter about how it uses, in the short term, its funding that comes through to support recreation and physical activity. It's quite a complicated, complex, pockets and isolation in terms of actually driving demand for the services. What's going to really help services in the short term will be driving demand, especially around gym, sports and leisure centres, which is what ukactive represents. So if you think about, there's a great story in the last 48 hours around colon cancer and the role of exercise, right? Which has got huge national coverage, global coverage. 66% of cancer rehabilitation takes place in leisure centres, right? And so there's a real opportunity to scale the role that these services play, but also public and private. If you look at the two biggest reasons why you've got long-term sick in this country right now, it's musculoskeletal issues and mental health. So gyms, pools and leisure centres can play a really preventative role in supporting people in there, but also addressing those issues of poor health. We ran a really successful 2-year project creating musculoskeletal hubs in leisure facilities, for example. Had a 44% uplift in people's improvement in the quality of their life, in allowing them to live a more fulfilling life and to get back into work. And so the role that gyms and leisure centres can play in some of those frontline issues that are taking huge amounts of economic costs in the country is huge. That's something that can happen in this Parliament, without a doubt. With regards to planning, I agree with Rob and Peter. I think, especially our private operators have a real long pipeline of opportunities that they're keen to open across all communities in the country. That is probably taking longer than they want, so there's a planning issue there. There's also a planning issue around how facilities work together with local authorities to provide strategic plans for what you've got. I live in the London Borough of Wandsworth. I've got a lot of public and private facilities in my immediate jurisdiction around where I live in Tooting. The strategic conversation is not probably happening about how you get the best out of those services in a complementary manner. And then finally, just to echo, there is genuine appetite from the conversations that we've been having and been involved in around pension fund investment into the sector. The ability of government to support the underwriting of the risk there, or support alternative streams coming into the sector, which is clearly, in the current economic environment, not necessarily going to happen from the Exchequer.
Okay, thank you. If I may, you mentioned that the government's holiday activities and food programme suffers from inefficiencies. So what would you like to see changed? Yeah,
I think it's, for that, and I echo what Ali Oliver has previously said from the YST on this issue, is around consistency, long-term consistency of investment. The inefficiencies happen because there's no guarantee of investment into these programmes. And so you have a situation where the deliverers and the operators on the ground having to make decisions when the funding announcements get right to the wire about what actually happens, and then people are let go. So on HAF especially, then there's always been a consistent level of annual frustration about not having a long-term plan. It's also worth recognising across the sector the level of frustration and regret that the Opening School Facility Programme was cancelled by the government, which was supporting 1,500 schools and 180,000 young people outside of school hours without an alternative in place. And so that felt an incredibly regressive move.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I think Robert